Hello again to Coffee with Carl. Last couple of videos we introduced a new idea that isn't really part of anyone's familiar concept system, and it takes quite a bit of getting used to, not because it's difficult, but simply because it's unfamiliar. So I thought I'd summarise what we've done so far in poetry, simply because it's the least expected form in which you'd think you can summarise it. So this is a poem virtually about everything we've talked about so far, and it's just time and motion study. Here is a lesson in relativity. What once was unchanging has turned into plastic. Time alters with movement, possessed with ductility, suggesting that time has become more elastic. It has something to do with a light, not light relation, transmuting time and motion through participation. It indicates that we can no longer think of time as separate, absolute, abstract, but connected via a more intimate link to the stuff that is mass. As a matter of fact, that alters with movement too, so much so that the faster it moves, the more it will grow. For mass is an energy locked as potential, a motion, a fraction of light speed, increases, reversing it also revealed the eventual power of the sun that an atom releases. One man challenged what we thought and dared, and came up with E equals mc squared. To explain it, but still it is some cause of wonder, since though after all we run, drive and fly, we simply don't feel it, time torn asunder, nor add not 1 ounce as the miles go by. We think too slowly, we think in miles per hour. Light speed makes it so, raised to the second power. The lesson is simple. The mind should be critical of all the most obvious matters of fact, and scrutinise what is familiar. Be sceptical. Leave no stone unturned, no concept intact, especially thought of the dogmatic kind that offers resistance, ignores the curious mind. Which is why, when it comes to the general view, where what is called gravity jumps to the fore, you find that the thinking goes slightly askew. And what was just said is thrown out of the door in order to make an accommodation to Newtonian space in accumulation. Think about it, how the movement of matter, how an increase in bulk is accompanied by a decrease in time. So both former and latter are joined at the hip. So the question is, why does the special theory join them at the start, only for the general view to tear them apart? Let me be clear about this. The perspective of one thing possessed of a double aspect is forced here to follow a certain directive, so that matter and time can be seen, in effect, as separate. Thus, the ground is set, made prime for quite a different alliance, space and time. So let me be frivolous, slightly poetic. A groom in the stall is awaiting his bride on the arm of her father. But being frenetic, she walked on his left arm, which was the wrong side. The vicar was blind, pronounced the holy word, married the groom to the father. Absurd. Consider it further, that once it is said, the decision must stand, since his word is the law, and forces them into the marital bed. Don't dawdle, he says, it's what marriage is for. It is a fruitless union, enforcing their compliance, and thrusted down upon them in the name of science. And so it was swallowed. And someone explained the fabric of space-time commanded, dictated, that matter should follow its lead, be enchained for the sake of inertia it incorporated. Thus, Newton was safely ensconced in the modern view, which all looks progressive while saying nothing new. Or you may consider that this is all talk, since whether it's space-time or mass-time, whatever, such abstract conceptions just don't pop my cork, and I'm really not bothered, not being that clever. Precisely the echo of the old dogmatic way when the unholy alliance of church and state held sway. To think of it relevant, think of it thus: the temporal being the active ingredient, and how objectivity displaces us. It then becomes simpler, meaning expedient, to represent nature as being mostly dead. And what we call animate is only in the head. Transposing this active ingredient to matter is nothing like strapping a watch to the wrist. It gives it an urge. It wants to get fatter. And also, it wants to be liked, to be kissed. In short, it wants, is filled with rage and fire. Another name for this, you know, desire. Yes, it is certainly Aristotelian and certainly anthropomorphic of you. Ambiguous nature, of course, a chameleon and rainbowed in any particular hue. But space-time reduces to cold, geometric, ideal, what mass-time infuses and favours the felt in the real. So think what it means to say all is connected, from galaxy stars down to persons and stones. Include yourself in it, for nothing's rejected, but wired in the core you can feel in your bones. Excluded, and become a prey to the winds that blow, and think what everyone else will have you know. So the lesson is simple. The mind is poetic, in which nothing is just a matter of fact, and will not rest satisfied till the noetic can levitate stones and leave nothing intact to find some next best thing in which to reside. It is restless and hungers and never satisfied. Thank you very much.